The following program is being brought to you on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. For more information about our network and to check our additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericahealth.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
Loss in our lives takes on many different forms and can be more than just a physical loss. It goes beyond that to include emotional loss, business loss, and loss of personal health. This is Voices for Healing with Cathy Roberts. Today, Cathy and her guests will help you find out that you are not alone in dealing with loss and grief. There are so many different ways to deal with loss. What works for some may not work for others. Together, let's find the solution that you can use. Here's your host, Cathy Roberts.
Welcome to Voices for Healing, a radio show dedicated to healing loss with Cathy Roberts. I am Cathy, and my guest today is Stephen Fox. In his book, Dreams, Guide to the Soul, Steve writes, "Dreams use the current day residue, events and materials from the dreamer's life. During the day, there are innumerable events, objects, symbols, emotional events, and personal stories from which the dreamer's subconscious can choose. Why did the dreamer's subconscious focus on these particular items or events at this particular time?" Before we move into answering that question, let me introduce our guest. Dr. Stephen G. Fox is a private practice licensed psychologist with over 25 years of clinical experience. He recently authored the book Dreams, Guide to the Soul. This book formulates 40 rules that describe a method of dream interpretation. It was while recovering from complications for an experimental treatment for multiple sclerosis, which was ultimately successful, that Steve had a recurring dream that facilitated his recovery and led to his fascination with dreams and their meanings. He found that his dreams could be used to help direct his treatment approach to his own MS, using the guidance of his dreams as part of a multimodal treatment plan. His multiple sclerosis went into remission after 15 years. Dr. Fox and his wife, Deborah Brogan, a board-certified psychiatrist, share a private practice in Mesa, Arizona. Steve, welcome to Voices for Healing.
Good morning, Cathy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here on the show discussing one of my favorite topics, dreams. In the intro, I shared a little bit about your multiple sclerosis and the dreams that facilitated your healing. Can you share that story with us?
Yes. I contracted MS in 1991, and one of the early things I did was I went to therapy. I'm a therapist myself, but this was more than I expected. And I went to a Jungian analyst who specialized in dream interpretation. And I was amazed at the insights a person could get from that. I ended up making treatment decisions many times based on what messages and feelings I was getting from my dreams. That ranged from who I picked as a physical therapist. It ranged to finding a treatment on the internet that was ultimately successful. My MS is in full remission now. You could not tell that I have MS right now. It became very severe. I was wearing a brace on my right leg. I was using a cane. I was having weekly falls and severe falls that I would get injured by. Dreams basically told me what moves to make, especially when I had doubts about what to do. The most dramatic dream was I used to be a long-distance runner. I was also in karate early in my life. I got MS when I was about 36. This is years ago. I was using the experimental treatment that I had found on the internet, and I was starting to get better, and I was in physical therapy and doing lots of other things, the MS diet, and anything that I thought had a 1% chance of helping, that's what I did. But I was getting better somewhat, to the point where I thought maybe I could chance running. Now, at the time, this sounded crazy because I was falling, but I was falling somewhat less, feeling a little bit stronger, and I thought, well, maybe it would help if I pushed it a little bit. But I was afraid of further injuring myself by crashing into the gravel. So I asked my dreams for a dream. And what I said to myself is, when my dreams give me a physical indication that I'm ready to run, that's when I'll do it. And I had a dream. This went on for several months. I'm monitoring my dreams. Finally, I had a dream that I thought this was the indication. I had a dream that I was doing a flying roundhouse kick in karate. It's probably the most difficult kick you can do. The next day, based on that dream, I went out and ran. Now, I didn't set any speed records, but it went without event, and I think it was an important part of my healing.
Yeah, your personal crisis, your health crisis is what got you interested in dreams in the first place. And then you really stayed with it once you had the MS. And really, it sounds like it took some time for that dream that indicated, yeah, it's time to do that thing that you're wanting to do.
Yes, you have to be patient with dreams sometimes. I mean, they're not going to tell you something. I have never been tricked by a dream, okay?
Mm. Tell us more of what you mean by that.
By that, I mean, I never had a dream that was false. Mm-hmm. I've never had a dream that said, like this flying roundhouse kick dream. I've never had a dream like that, and it turned out that, oh, no, I wasn't ready. It's your subconscious. It's the better 80% of your brain. It's the part of you that's in motion all the time. It's the part of you that tries to solve problems. I think it goes back to the beginning of time that people have used dreams to solve problems.
Yes.
And
the other thing you're saying is over time you've really learned to trust your dreams, that they're true. Yes.
Let's put it this way, with my clients, I have never, that's true generally of the subconscious, unless the person is psychotic. Okay, that's mm-hmm. the only exception. But usually you're being told, I've never had a person come into therapy and say, I had a voice or a dream that told me I should do such a thing, and I didn't do it, and I'm so glad I didn't do it. I've never had that. It's always, I knew I should have done that then, and I regret it deeply.
Paying attention to our dreams can really help us, can't it?
For sure, on so many levels.
Yeah.
They can help you in your daily life. They can help you in your future plans. They can put things better in perspective on what has happened in the past that may be interfering with your present life.
Yeah, like can you give us an example of that?
For example, someone comes into me and says, I feel like I should leave a certain job or leave a certain relationship. And I don't know why I don't leave. There's really no objective reason for me not to leave. And I look at them and I say, well, let's ask your dreams. That question, why can't I leave this relationship? Why can't I leave this job? And you will get an answer using the dream incubation process. PBS, they put out a special, and they said there's probably a 50% chance that when you ask a question the night before the night you're asking for a dream, there's a 50% chance that you'll have a dream that answers the question in some way. The way I do it, my experience has been it's more like 80%. Basically, what I recommend is that the person formulate the question, and they have to formulate the question in their own words, of course. But once they formulate that question and they feel that it's right, I ask them to then write the question down 3 times. And the purpose of that is not to keep a record of the question. The purpose of it is to register it in their subconscious. But the most important thing, in the morning when they wake up, I don't care if they dreamt about Porky Pig. I want to hear it. So many times people come back and they say, well, I didn't get any answer to this dream, and they would tell me the dream, and I'll look at them and say, well, you very much got a very direct answer, and this is what it sounds like to me.
Your dream incubation process is, I think, really useful for people, and anyone can do it. And there are 3 steps to it. Is that right? The first is to formulate a question, something really relevant and fresh in your life that you want to know something about.
Yes.
And the second is to write down that question 3 times before you go to sleep.
Yes.
And then the third part is to remember to call up from the subconscious whatever you dreamed about that night, whatever it is.
For sure. And I say you write down the 3 questions the first night. You don't need to do that every night, just the first night. On subsequent nights, you just ask yourself the question before you go to sleep.
Got it. And it's the same question that you write at least 3 times the first night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And usually, like I say, if you do that over an extended time, like a week or 2, if you don't get an answer, I'm shocked, unless there's something drastically wrong. That's been my experience with clients.
Yes, and I'll share that I have tried this process and shared it with some of my clients since I learned about it also. And I think it's pretty phenomenal. I've heard good feedback from the people I work with, and I know that I've had good experiences using it as well.
It's so powerful, and it takes the therapist out of the center of a question. So many times people come in and they say, I'm torn between these 2 relationships. Which way should I go? I'm meeting them for the first time. I look at them and, well, let's ask your dreams. I have found, of course, it isn't good for a therapist to say, well, you should do this or that. That never is good. I found that on a good day, I tend to be about 70% right. Your dreams tend to be about 90% right. Guess which one I'm going to go with.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing we like to do is let people know that they really are the expert about their own lives, and they really are in charge of the choices they make. So what better way to firm that up than
there's no one that knows you better than your subconscious.
That's exactly right. So why not get in touch with that and know more about it? Steve, we're going to go to a break here in just a moment. So hold your thoughts about whatever was next in your mind. And I will share a Jewish proverb that says, a dream unexamined is like a letter unopened. Think about that, listeners, as we take a break. You are listening to Voices for Healing Talk Radio.
Think you've seen everything there is to see in online television? Let us surprise you. Visit voiceamerica.tv today for sports, health, business, and more on demand 24/7.
Cathy Roberts is not only an exceptional radio host, she's an exceptional listener and counselor. Cathy appeals to motivated, high-functioning people to help them improve their health and vitality. Cathy can meet you where you are and help you identify what you want. Visit Cathy's website at www.cathyroberts.net or call her at 301-651-0019. Cathy works with both individuals and couples and specializes in grief and depression counseling. Get to know yourself by working with Cathy. Visit cathyroberts.net or call 301-651-0019. Cathy Roberts offers Circle of Voices teleclasses to help you focus your mind, engage your energy, and awaken your inner guide. Through this experiential and interactive series, you will know yourself more and learn to express yourself authentically in your personal life. Visit Cathy's website at cathyroberts.net to find out about this teleclass series, designed to open you to change and engage healing in the fabric of your life. Go to cathyroberts.net or call Cathy at 301-651-0019 for more information.
Now you don't have to stay linked to your desktop or laptop. Take Voice America on the go and listen anywhere. Get our mobile app for iPhone, BlackBerry, or Android at the Apple iTunes App Store, BlackBerry App World, or Android Market.
You are listening to Voices for Healing with your host, Cathy Roberts. If you have a question or comment for the program, please send an email to Cathy at cathyroberts.net. That's Cathy at cathyroberts.net. Now back to Voices for Healing.
This is Voices for Healing Talk Radio. I am Cathy Roberts, and my guest is Stephen Fox, the author of Dreams, Guide to the Soul. Dreams, Guide to the Soul. Steve and I were just discussing losses that people have in their lives, all sorts of loss, from job loss to illness to death of loved ones, including pets. And we were talking about how dreams and paying attention to our dreams can be useful during those times of immediate loss. Steve, what are some of your thoughts about using dreams and how dreams can help us and support us when we're going through really challenging times?
You know, many times dreams would try to be consoling. They would try to bring to bear what was positive about that relationship you lost, trying to put that in perspective, trying to point to what are the good things about that relationship changing. Dreams about deaths, people that were close to you, that were very close to you. There's a type of dream called vision dreams where the person will feel like the person who died actually appeared to them. For example, I will have a daughter, let's say, and she came in and her father recently died, and she was in her 30s. And they were very close. But she had a dream maybe a month or two after he died that, again, she said it felt like more than a dream. It felt like I hugged my father, and I could feel the hug. And she felt so consoled by that.
That's a powerful experience that people can have, isn't it?
For sure.
Yeah.
You know, the most powerful individual, I will call it individual experience we can have probably from dreams is what I call the overriding voice, that the voice just simply says what you should do or points something out or might say something cryptically like a puzzle, and it just sticks in your mind, and you think about that, and usually you realize, oh, this is what it's talking about. I will call that you can call that the voice of the subconscious. You can call it the voice of your higher self. You can call it your soul. We're all pretty much saying the same thing. When you have a vision of a deceased loved one appearing to you, that is a part of the collective, what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, appearing to you and giving you a message. And it might be more than that. We don't know, okay? I will always hold to that of course we don't know everything. That is very meaningful. That is very powerful. The people that I've seen that have had that experience, at a minimum, they feel consoled by it. Sometimes it's a life-changing insight.
That's meaningful to people to have that kind of consoling dream when they're in the middle of that gut-wrenching grief that they can be experiencing. I'd like you to perhaps let our listeners know what collective unconscious means. I think you and I know that, and I don't want to lose anybody out there who's thinking, what's that?
Yes. Carl Jung was very interesting. He and Freud broke apart simply because they had a divergence of ideas. Freud was focused on the past. Jung was very much more interested in the future. He thought that we each had our own subconscious, but that it fed into what he called the collective unconscious, okay? And this is a meta concept. This is an overriding concept that each of our subconscious feeds into this collective subconscious, and it affects the culture as a whole. Elements of dreams are usually personal and things that have transpired in your recent life, but sometimes elements appear that have no relationship to what has happened in your current life. You will dream of the Egyptian pyramids. You will see Greek architecture. You will see Roman architecture. You've never been there, okay? Where are these coming from? He would say, when you see things like that, that's a sign of the collective unconscious, that these are ideas that are in the consciousness of a culture. And we can think about it practically as these ideas being passed on through culture. But I believe, and others believe, there is something in the nature of consciousness itself that affects the whole culture in ways that we don't totally understand. Quantum physics probably will have more to say about this in the future. At this point, we don't know.
Beautiful description of what that collective unconscious is. It's part of the times that we know something and don't quite know how we know it and don't have any rational way of saying how we know it, but know something. And that's another part of it. Is that correct?
Correct. And, I want to say, when I say culture, it's not a limited point of view. The great cultures of India would be included in this collective subconscious. Any great civilization is part of this collective unconscious. Our cultures are aware of those cultures. They're all tied together.
Yes, I want to mention that the subtitle of your book is 40 Ancient Secret Keys to Healing, Renewal, and Power. And that 40 Ancient Secret Keys is drawing from cultures beyond our own.
For sure. That's where the ancient comes from. I mean, these collective figures that reappear over and over in dreams, they are not invented yesterday. They have been in people's dreams for thousands of years. And they tend to be the same type of character. I mean, when people are telling me a dream, I've done enough of this dream interpretation that I actually can almost see the figure they're talking about, and sometimes I will ask them what the physical appearance of the character is, because the physical appearance tends to take on certain dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but it's very interesting that you have these recurrent characters, and it really is true that, you know, the drama of life continues on in much the same format that it has for thousands of years.
Yeah, the power of some of the old texts that have been around for thousands of years give rise to that. They're as fresh when we read them now as they were then. I want to come back to you mentioned, as we were talking about dreams and loss, you mentioned that dreams can be consoling to people who are going through a loss. Are there times when they're disturbing as well?
They can be, if they're disturbing, it's in a positive way, in the sense that they're giving a warning, you know, that the person may have a dream. Let's say they're considering taking a certain course in life, they're considering taking a certain job, they're considering a certain relationship, and they will have a loved one that is deceased in what feels like a vision dream, give them warnings, literally, about pursuing that course.
Do you have is there an example of that you can share with us that perhaps someone you worked with experienced?
Yes. This lady, she was considering a different course in her life, and she had a dream. She was a bus driver, okay, and she was considering going to a different area of the country and breaking off some relationships and so forth. And she had a dream that she was driving her bus, and her father, who had recently died, appeared on the outside of the bus, and he was hanging on to her mirror, and he was pointing ahead in what looked like a tunnel of time, the future. He was pointing ahead and trying to warn her about an impending accident. Okay. Very much the concern was, gee, Dad would not think that this was a good course of action. They were very close, and so there was no antagonism between them. So she took it very seriously.
Yeah, I appreciate that vignette that you can share so that we see that a dream that seems to have some kind of disturbing feature or someone who we've lost giving us a warning or message is something to heed, to pay attention to as well.
Yeah. Usually the message is in your best interest. People from the other side, they want you to have the best life you can have. They can communicate through dreams. I actually read a book by a Jungian analyst who talked about how loved ones tended to appear in dreams for up to 2 years after their death, and how to resolve that. And sometimes the problem was that the person here on Earth was hanging on too much, and sometimes the problem was that the person that died was hanging on too much.
Yeah, letting go on one end or the other. Steve, we're going to need to take a break here in just a moment. In his book, Steve writes, "How do you unlock personal power with dreams? Dreams point out how and why we are not being effective and often suggest a course of action, as in the example Steve just gave us with the bus driver." Stay with us on Voices for Healing. We'll be right back.
Have you friended us on Facebook yet? Why not? Just go to facebook.com/World Talk Radio or search for the keywords World Talk Radio. Once you're a part of our Facebook network, you'll receive daily messages about what's happening with our shows, this week's featured guests, and new happenings at the World Talk Radio Network. And you can add your voice to the always active discussions on our timeline. Just go to facebook.com/World Talk Radio or search for World Talk Radio.
Cathy Roberts offers Circle of Voices teleclasses to help you focus your mind, engage your energy, and awaken your inner guide. Through this experiential and interactive series, you will know yourself more and learn to express yourself authentically in your personal life. Visit Cathy's website at cathyroberts.net to find out about this teleclass series, designed to open you to change and engage healing in the fabric of your life. Go to cathyroberts.net or call Cathy at 301-651-0019 for more information. Cathy Roberts is not only an exceptional radio host, she's an exceptional listener and counselor. Cathy appeals to motivated, high-functioning people to help them improve their health and vitality. Cathy can meet you where you are and help you identify what you want. Visit Cathy's website at www.cathyroberts.net or call her at 301-651-0019. Cathy works with both individuals and couples and specializes in grief and depression counseling. Get to know yourself by working with Cathy. Visit cathyroberts.net or call 301-651-0019.
What's going on behind the scenes with your favorite Voice America show or host? For the latest news, visit the iRadio blog at iradioblog.com.
You are listening to Voices for Healing with your host, Cathy Roberts. If you have a question or comment for the program, please send an email to Cathy at cathyroberts.net. That's Cathy at cathyroberts.net. Now back to Voices for Healing.
Welcome back to Voices for Healing. This is Cathy Roberts. My guest is Steve Fox. We're discussing dreams and how they help us know ourselves better. Steve, we were just talking about masculine and feminine elements that show up in dreams, men and women in our dreams, and what they mean. Maybe we could begin to talk about some of the symbols that show up in dreams by starting there.
Yes. You know, a primary key to understanding dreams is there are always various levels to dreams, and they're always all going on at once. This is what I call the first level, is that you consider each character in the dream to be a part of your psyche. One thing that seems almost invariably true is that men tend to go more with actions, women tend to go more with emotions. This is not absolutely true, but it's usually the way things pan out simply because of the thousands of years of culture that we've had. When you have masculine symbols, primarily masculine symbols, the dream is probably talking more about what you should do. When you have primarily feminine symbols, the dream is probably talking more about your feelings and how those are operative in the situation. It's interesting that the Jungians, the followers of Carl Jung, they generally like it when you have positive dreams of sex. And the reason behind that is that if you consider each character to be part of your psyche, and the man goes with your actions and the woman goes with your emotions, they saw consensual sex as representing integration, that the person is integrating those various aspects of their personality. There are other dramatic symbols of transformation. Fire is probably can be one of the more disturbing and one of the more dramatic symbols of transformation. And, dreams are always a metaphor, okay? Why is fire a symbol of transformation? Well, fire turns matter into energy. And so the dream is using that transformation that fire causes on matter as either signaling that you need to change in a certain way or that a change has occurred. There are other symbols of integration. One of my favorites is trees. A tree has roots that go far down into the ground, of course. It's here on the level, and it opens up to the sky. So you have the three levels represented there. And it's also a living thing, and it grows, So the integration is usually a very positive thing. One of the more disturbing elements people will dream of is snakes. And Freud, of course, always saw this as sexually related. Of course, he saw everything as sexually related. Snakes in dreams, for me, what has seemed to be more the case, is they usually represent a transformation or a significant change is being called for. Snakes are one of the few animals to completely shed their skin, and so you have that renewal taking place, that transformation again taking place.
And snakes in our culture have lost some of the sense they had as healing symbols. When we think of the caduceus and the American Medical Association insignia and logo, it's two intertwined snakes. And so snakes are really in more ancient times, maybe not even that long ago, were considered healing. And what you said is so true. They know when and how to shed what they don't need anymore.
And isn't that interesting? The medical symbol of the snakes, that's a change of healing, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So it's really a symbol of healing. And I concur with you about snakes giving an indication of what might not be needed anymore, what to let go of, what to shed, what to be born anew into.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's some books give you thousands and millions of symbols that this represents this represents this. And I don't find that there's some value in that, of course, but I don't find that to be as useful as having principles and methodologies to approach a dream by. One of the primary symbols that occurs over and over is water. And water invariably represents emotion, especially subconscious emotion. It is in like 60, 70% of the dreams that I hear.
Water shows up in 60 to 70% of the dreams? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and maybe that's it might be a selective thing with me simply because I like water. Okay, but it is the type. It's like fire and snakes. I mean, when you think about it, snakes, how much daily contact do people really have with snakes?
Not too much nowadays.
Why do they keep showing up in dreams?
Mm-hmm.
There's other symbols like trains. How much contact do most people have with trains? It's such a compelling symbol that dreams can't resist the urge to make the metaphor of how they are like life. The same thing is with water. I mean, it's a daily. Now, water we do have a lot of contact with, of course. I mean, it's the basis of life. Water and emotion. Emotion is probably, the basis of interpersonal relationships. Mm-hmm. And that's why that is so significant and so strong, I think.
And I think, too, about water and emotion. There's a lot of water that we see in the oceans and so forth, but water also runs deep.
Yeah.
Those of us who aren't on city water sources have wells in our backyard, sometimes very, very deep. And so I think as you talk about water symbolizing emotion, I think of how deep those water symbols can go, how deep in the earth water is, and
Yes.
how it can be drawn up from the depths, like
Yeah.
what we're talking about here in dreams.
You know, the biggest symbol of the subconscious that we have is the ocean. And it is the deepest source, too, isn't it? You're bringing up the thing about wells. It reminds me, Marianne Woodman, she's a famous Jungian analyst, and she wrote books for years, and none of them really took off until later in her life. And she had a dream that there was a rose at the bottom of a deeply dug well. At the very bottom of this well, there was a rose, and it eventually grew up to the top of the well and then bloomed. And she had that dream for years. Now, this is a predictive dream, isn't it? Because what happened in her life is she wrote for years, nothing happened, and then one of her books was published, and then the other 6 or 7 got published also. So that dream, she didn't totally understand it, but it was a compelling dream. It was what Jung would call a big dream. She kept it in mind, and she finally saw, oh, that's what it was talking about. It was talking about my growth as a writer finally blooming.
And bloom she did. I like you mentioning Marianne Woodman. I had the opportunity to be in a workshop with her at the Washington National Cathedral some years back, and being in her presence was absolutely amazing. And I think she's so wise and such a dear person. So thank you for bringing her into our show and sharing this really striking dream that she had.
She had a workshop here in Phoenix, too, that I went to, and I like to listen. I find listening to her tapes and so forth, I've gotten a lot of wisdom from what she has to say and how she views things.
Yes, I have as well. And she's also into movement, which I also respect and like that she brings movement in. So,
and I think she's particularly good with women, which is the aspects that I've particularly used from her work.
Yeah. I like having her on the show with us here. She's here in spirit with us. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's pick up on you mentioned there are various levels to dreams and talked about each character being a part of our psyche. And perhaps you can begin an introduction of what the different levels are that we might look for in our dreams.
Well, the first level is like what I was saying, is to consider each character a different part of your psyche. Mm-hmm. The secondary level, and this is the level that people want to go to, and usually it causes problems because people immediately go to that level, and it's what I call the interpersonal level. A woman will dream that her husband cheated on her, and she thinks that says something about the relationship. It is possible that it does, but many times it doesn't. What it means is her subconscious may be very concerned about some course of action she's taking. Okay?
Yes, everything in your dream is likely to be something about you.
That's for sure. You know, my accuracy at that level can be like 80%. Okay? If I ever try to go to the interpersonal level, my accuracy will drop to 50%, simply because I don't know all the details of that person's life. I can describe the processes that I see going on to the person, and they will be able to fill in the details, and they will be able to take that and apply it interpersonally. But that is a 50%er for the interpreter. The first level is much more certain.
Yeah. Let's hold your thought here as we're talking about different levels of dreams, Steve. We need to take another break, and we'll be right back.
Save on your prescriptions with the RX Savings Plus drug discount card offered by Voice America. It is not insurance, and discounts are only available from participating pharmacies. But 9 out of 10 pharmacies participate nationwide. Start saving today. Print your free card online at voiceamerica.rxsavingsplus.com or text the word TALK RADIO to 96362.
Cathy Roberts is not only an exceptional radio host, she's an exceptional listener and counselor. Cathy appeals to motivated, high-functioning people to help them improve their health and vitality. Cathy can meet you where you are and help you identify what you want. Visit Cathy's website at www.cathyroberts.net or call her at 301-651-0019. Cathy works with both individuals and couples and specializes in grief and depression counseling. Get to know yourself by working with Cathy. Visit cathyroberts.net. or call 301-651-0019. Cathy Roberts offers Circle of Voices teleclasses to help you focus your mind, engage your energy, and awaken your inner guide. Through this experiential and interactive series, you will know yourself more and learn to express yourself authentically in your personal life. Visit Cathy's website at cathyroberts.net to find out about this teleclass series designed to open you to change and engage healing in the fabric of your life. Go to cathyroberts.net or call Cathy at 301-651-0019 for more information.
Find out what's happening on the Voice America Talk Radio Network by keeping up with us on Twitter. You can find us at Voice America TRN.
You are listening to Voices for Healing with your host, Cathy Roberts. If you have a question or comment for the program, please send an email to Cathy at cathyroberts.net. That's Cathy at cathyroberts.net. Now back to Voices for Healing.
Welcome back to Voices for Healing Talk Radio. This is Cathy Roberts, counselor and teacher. Visit my website at cathyroberts.net. Friend me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and join the Voices for Healing online community. My guest is Stephen Fox, and we're discussing his book, Dreams Guide to the Soul. Steve's book is a useful guide for therapists and lay people alike who want to know what their dreams mean and use dream interpretation to heal the past and determine action for the future. We're in the middle of talking about the levels of dreams, and we've talked about how each character is part of the dreamer's psyche. Interpersonal dreams about people may or may not have something to do with the person, but they certainly have to do with the dreamer's internal world. And now we're going to talk a bit about the practical level of dreams. Steve, would you like to take off there?
Yes. As a therapist, I like, of course, to interpret dreams symbolically, but you want to be somewhat careful with that. Sometimes dreams just have a practical level. For example, someone dreams that there's something very wrong with their stomach. They may need to have that checked out with a medical doctor. They may have some kind of stomach ailment, some kind of stomach cancer. These things need to be checked out. Most frequently, that isn't the case, but it happens often enough that it needs to be checked out. Your subconscious, of course, is very connected into, underlying bodily processes.
Yeah, your body might know before your consciousness is aware and send you that dream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Talking about some of the other levels of dreams, sometimes dreams strictly refer back to the past. That's what I call a post-traumatic stress dream, that it's a vivid recollection of what happened in the past, some traumatic incident. And when the person dreams about it, it's very vivid, very colorful, and the person feels like it is actually happening right now and feels like a flashback. Those types of dreams really can't be interpreted. They are what they are. The person is fixated in the trauma of that dream, and they need to have processes to move through that to heal.
And that's some of the work that you do, is helping people move through PTSD.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. What I found to work with that is what's called EMDR. It's emotional desensitization and retraining.
Mm-hmm.
That's a procedure that it's sort of like hypnosis, only the person does not enter a trance and they are conscious all the time. And I could go into that in depth, but that would be a whole other show.
Yes.
I think.
Tell us a little about predictive dreams.
Predictive dreams. Again, these dreams, sometimes people will have dreams that foretell the future. I've actually had psychics who were very good have dreams about major world events that subsequently came true. I had a psychic once who dreamed that a plane took off from France and exploded. About 2 weeks later, the Condor left
Concorde?
Paris. It was this large supersonic airplane, and it exploded on takeoff. Now, she had that dream on a recurrent basis during those 2 weeks. She was very sensitive to these sorts of things. And if you talk to psychics, they will always say that a traumatic event sends out stronger signals than everyday life. And that's why sometimes people that are attuned to the collective unconscious for reasons we don't understand can sometimes feel that more than the rest of us. The distinguishing thing about predictive dreams is there's different methods where you can try to get more in touch with the dream and kind of see more what it means. You can try to change the dream in some ways. With predictive dreams, you can't do that. No matter what you try to do, the dream stays in that form, in a certain form, and that's because it's laying out what's going to happen in the future. Again, I think this has something to do with consciousness. We don't totally understand, of course, what is happening there. It is very interesting. Predictive dreams sometimes will give you a warning, too. You know, it is your subconscious is always trying to look at your situation and trying to help you adapt to what could happen or might happen.
A really great reason to pay attention to our dreams, isn't it? There's
For
so much
sure.
information in them that can help us out, both what we might do to set our lives on a better course and what we can best avoid for the same kind of reason.
I think dreams are very adaptive. I mean, I think they've been related to our survival. I think when we're trying to solve problems during the day, that process doesn't stop at night because you go to sleep. It continues on at a different level.
Yes. Steve, we're nearing the end of our time together. We have a couple minutes left. How can listeners reach you if they want to follow up with you and your dream interpretation work?
The best way is on the internet, and my blog is Fox Dream Blog, Fox, small letters, foxdreamblog.com. I have a blog that I contribute to almost on a daily basis at this point.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you here, Steve, but I want you to stay on the line so that you and I can chat afterwards. Thank you so much for being with us today. I want to thank our listening audience for tuning in as well. You're very welcome. Voices for Healing will be back next Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time with Linda Graham, a licensed marriage and family therapist and author of the book Bouncing Back, Rewiring Your Brain for Maximum Resilience and Well-Being. Linda combines Western neuroscience and Eastern mindfulness practices to support bounce-back ability. Until next week, this is Cathy Roberts. You're now listening to Voices for Healing.
Thank you for listening to Voices for Healing. Please join Cathy Roberts again next Monday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. We wish you the best recovery from your loss, and we'll talk again next week.